Now, advocacy campaign Youth Capital says it's concerned about the high rate of youth unemployment. The group says the social crisis needs urgent intervention that can grow the economy and benefit the people. This follows the Minister of Finance, who tabled his midterm budget speech on Monday. For more, we are joined, this was on Tuesday, in fact. For more, we are joined by Network Mobiliser at Advocacy Campaign Youth Capital, Lethiwe Nkosi. She joins us now via Zoom. Lethiwe, thank you so much for your time here on eNCA. This speech was actually made by the Finance Minister at City Hall on Wednesday afternoon at 2 o'clock. I noticed, and a lot of business people noticed, that he didn't make a lot of announcements about small business, right, SMEs, and this is where the youth, needs to be assisted to thrive.
Absolutely. But what we do welcome, what the minister said, we do welcome the extension of the Presidential Youth Employment Initiative that encompasses the basic education employment initiative, which led to many young people being placed as teacher assistants in their communities, thus able to support small businesses in the community. So as much as the minister did not say much about the support that SMMEs require, we are glad to hear that young people will get the chance to work as teacher assistants at least for a year and thus have the income to support small businesses in their communities.
And that stimulus package actually has been quite successful for some time. It's one of, the very few, very well-written black and white policies or campaigns that we have in South Africa that have actually resulted in positives. But what do you make of the fact that they've put in another 34 billion rand to extend the social relief of distress grant for another year?
So although it is, encouraging that is still on the table, what we find disappointing as Youth Capital that it's actually less. So in 2022, it was 40 billion rand allocated to the SRD grant, the Social Relief Distress Grant, and now we're down, as you've noted, to 34 million. So that will translate to less people, fewer people being able to access the grant, which will pose a massive challenge, especially to young people who head many of the households in our country.
Lethiwe, for me, I think what's important, we all know that this particular election that we're heading to is going to be a very interesting one, looking at the electoral amendment bill, the independent candidates and whatever. But for the youth in particular that hasn't shown up for elections as much as government would hope in the last few years, how important is it that, first of all, we listen to the State of the Nation address, which will then, lay the path, in terms of the February budget that the minister will be tabling in Parliament on whether or not he'll be able to actually implement, or South Africa has the money to implement everything that the president would have outlined in the SONA?
It is absolutely imperative that we listen to what the president will present during his State of the Nation address in February next year. And what we know as Youth Capital, just from our engagement with over 100 young people across the country, is that young people are interested in knowing what our leaders intend to do. They may not participate in the ways that one would expect, but we know that young people are paying close attention to what our leaders have to say. They're engaging on various platforms like WhatsApp, talking about what their expectations are. And as Youth Capital will definitely, create a space where young people will be tuned in and listen to what the president will present.
And in terms of what the Youth Capital will be doing between now and then, hopefully also in assistance with making sure, a friend of mine yesterday made a joke and said, with the support that we're seeing with the Springboks Cup tour, she doubts that there'd be that many South Africans turning up for the elections next year, which is, a sad reality. So what will you be doing, in your role as Youth Capital to try and not only make people listen to what the leaders promise, but also turn up to vote? Because, like the IEC says, it's your democracy, so own it.
So we will continue to use our various avenues to encourage young people to express their views. We will continue to make a call to government in terms of what they're required to do. So with regards to, for example, with regards to the Presidential Youth Employment initiative, as much as the extension has been given, as Youth Capital, our resolve remains that we need funding to continue for more than a year. So we will continue to engage young people on that, to say that they can express their views on why it is important for the funding to continue for more than a year, and thus why they need to engage in the elections to ensure that government knows young people are listening and they're watching, they're holding them accountable on their promises. So yeah, our role as Youth Capital will just continue doing the campaign work that we're doing, which is aligned to what government needs to be doing for its people.
And I mean, over 1 million job opportunities actually created, as I see here, in terms of the State of the Nation address from that presidential stimulus package. I would say that this is probably one of those government campaigns that should continue. Thank you so much for your time, Lethiwe, here on eNCA. Lethiwe is speaking to us, Lethiwe Nkosi, that is speaking to us from the Advocacy campaign, Youth Capital.